Hey everyone, it's Tony from the Handlebar Workshops, and today we're in the office workshop. And today we're going to be working on a bass. Now, I got this one off Craigslist for about 80 bucks. It's a Fender Squier, but it's a Fender. It's the first instrument I've ever owned that actually says Fender on it. It sounds really good, and I like the way it looks. The problem is that it's got a big bow in the neck. My bass has a bow much like a banana, like this. Now you could have a back bow like that, but that's not the problem we have here. So in my situation, with the strings on the neck like this, when you press down, it actually draws the string sharp because it tightens that tension on the string. It also makes it much more difficult to play. You got to push a lot harder to get the string to fret and make the right sound. Now the easiest way to tell if it has a bow is to take a capo, put it on the first fret here, then take your finger and put it on the last fret here. That'll make a nice straight line with this bass string here. You can see just how high the string is off the frets. Ideally what you want is maybe about a business card thickness or so between the 7th or 8th fret and the bottom of the string. You can see here that it's much wider than that, and that's something we got to take care of. So most guitars and basses will have a truss rod that's going through the length of the neck. And what that does is when you tighten it up, it should take it from this to hopefully nice and flat. If this is your problem, then you want to actually loosen the truss rod. It's righty-tighty, lefty-loosey, and that should straighten it out. The main problem I'm having with this here is that I've tightened this as much as I can, and it still looks like this. Since this nut is completely tight, there's nowhere else for it to go, we need to add some more length to the truss rod in the neck. I'm going to use some number 10 spring washers here and flatten them out with pliers, so that way they all fit in there nice and flat. Then use a small file to round over the edges so it doesn't get hung up inside of the truss rod hole. So we're going to use a 4mm Allen wrench here. It's got a ball end on the end there. That makes it a little easier to get to when it starts coming out. But to start it, we're going to use the short part here. Engage it into the nut. And it's righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. So we're going to go this way. Start loosening it up. And that's the nut right there. With the hex on that side and the threads on that side. I put the washer on the Allen wrench here, then I can use the Allen wrench as a guide to kind of get it in there. Using a pick and the light from your cell phone, you'll be able to see if that washer is seated properly in there. Looks good. So now we put the nut back in and tighten it up. So the 7th fret is right here. You can still take this business card and fit it easily between the straight edge and the frets. So one wasn't enough because it is about as tight as it can go. We need to add another washer. Alright, now we're at 2 washers. So the 7th fret is still here. We got that same business card. And even with 2 washers, we still got too much space in between there, too much relief. Let's try 3. Here's the 7th fret, and here's the 8th fret. And here's the business card that we've been using. Can't quite fit it between the straight edge and the frets. which is a good thing. But I can still see a little bit of light between the frets and the straight edge. So I think we can do better. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to loosen this nut up completely. So now I'm just going to add 2 pieces of scrap wood onto the fretboard to protect the fretboard. I'm going to use just a rigid piece of metal or wood or whatever. I'm using a level in this case. You can use whatever you happen to have. And I'm going to use clamps on the ends here. Make sure you put the clamps in line with the piece of wood, because you want this bar to be clamped on those pieces of wood there and back here. And now somewhere in the middle, right around the 5th or maybe about the 6th fret here, I'm going to clamp on another piece, another clamp here. And using a straight edge, we'll see that we get it to rock back and forth, telling us that we got a back bow, kind of like that upside down banana. I'm going to give it a little bit more, so I'm going to tighten up this clamp here in the center. Go gentle and slow so you don't break the neck. You'll hear when you got a nice back bow. And then with the back bow set in our neck here, we'll reinstall the nut and tighten it up. Alright, I've readjusted this bar so that I can get to the nut right here. I moved it down that way. We get some good tension on it, but we won't tighten it up all the way. There we go. Now we'll just let it sit for a couple hours and we'll come back and check it out. So it's been more than an hour, probably close to a day, and we've been letting the wood in the neck stay in this tension state for that long. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to tighten the tension rod nut as tight as I can get it. That way I can hopefully keep it in a back bow, and then as I release tension it'll straighten itself out. Alright, that's about as far as I'm willing to go. And I can slowly start taking the clamps off. So putting the straight edge on there, you can see we've got a bit of a back bow there. You can hear it kind of rotating there. It seems to be rotating on the 4th fret here. That's okay, I'll take it. We're going to use the Allen wrench and start loosening up a bit. Remember, it's righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. So we're going to go here, go about 1/4 of a turn. We're going to see where we're at. Still a bit of a rock. So we'll do another 1/4 of a turn. Don't want to do too much. And it's looking good. Now I've got a feeler gauge here with a 2/1000th of an inch blade right here. It's really kind of hard to see. It's very thin, and very flimsy. Let's see if I can fit it through any of these on these frets here. I got a little bit there, a little bit there. Let's try 4/1000ths. So now we tighten it back up a bit. Go back less than 1/4 of a turn. Straight edge back on, in the same spot, still no rocking. 4/1000ths still barely fits. So I can't get a 2/1000 under there, but I can get it under here. So we need to tighten it up just a bit more. Now you can't rule out the possibility of some uneven frets here. So you got to get things pretty close and then be good with that until you get all the frets nice and leveled. Alright, so I'm happy with where we're at right now. I'm just barely fitting a 3/1000 feeler under there, and it is really thin. So I'm not going to fiddle around with that much. So we'll take the Allen wrench out of here, remove the capo, masking tape down here to hold everything down. So I'm going to take this one and put it back under the string tree. Take this one back under the string tree. Put these two back in their places in the nut. Now we'll tune it up and see where we're at. And there we go, we are tuned up. And I gotta say, that actually is looking much, much better. Here you can see the kind of action we've got here. If we hold it down here at one end and then down here at the other end, see how nice and tight that is to the frets. As long as I don't dig in too hard, I can keep it from buzzing. Well, there you have it. Plays pretty good here up in the upper frets, which is where I was having problems at before with the really high action. I don't have to press so hard to get there to make it sound right. For $80, I'm pretty happy. It took just a little bit of work and, 4 washers. 40 cents to fix. Maybe fool around with a little bit down here on the bridge to get rid of some of that buzzing when I'm in the lower strings down here. But even that's really not that big of a deal. So I may not even do too much with that. In the meantime, I'm going to play some copyright-free music, and you can give me a thumbs up and think about maybe subscribing and hitting that bell icon below so you know when I come out with future videos. Alright? So thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.